And now, weighing in out of the blue corner, Josh the Punk Thompson.
100% agree.
And on the other mic, he weighs in from the red corner, Big John McCarthy.
Well, that's right. We're live. Welcome to the Weighing In Podcast. We got so much to talk about. There's all kinds of things going on in the world of MMA. We got a UFC from the Apex coming up. We'll talk a little bit about that. But the matchups that are coming down the road, that's the big thing. My man, how you doing there?
I'm doing good, man. Look at this wild and crazy hair, man. I just literally was camping all weekend, haven't had a haircut in probably almost a month, and it's just getting out there. Look at all that gray right there and the gray right there.
Which tells you everything.
It's all right. I'm happy, man. I got the happy dad life going on right now. So everything's
dad.
been good.
Happy dad life, happy dad bod.
Hey, D Hughes, I see that super chat, man. I want you guys to keep them coming. How would Big Unk do at heavyweight against, whoops, let me see. It won't let me get rid of this little drop down. And or John and Josh. I'm still waiting for my picture of the Bruce Lee t-shirt. Oh, I got to send you the Bruce Lee. D Hughes, send me another DM. I know you sent me a DM, but I definitely will send you a picture of the Bruce Lee t-shirt with the signatures. So send me over another DM because I lose it within the weekend. All right. And then I'll get that picture over to you. All right, my man. But Big John, what do you think? How would Big Unk do against heavyweights against Tom Aspinall or John Jones?
You got to look and say he would do okay. He's a good fighter. He's a hell of a fighter. He's got good wrestling. He's got good stand-up. It's just that the size is going to give him some problems. Right now, he's in a position where with most of the guys that he's fighting, Pereira was a little bit different, but with most of the guys he's fighting, he's actually the bigger fighter. He's the bigger, longer guy. He won't be with either one of them. And so that's always a problem when you're usually fighting someone that, you know, you're the longer fighter, the bigger fighter. It's something you get used to. Then you got to go and fight someone who's really good at using that range and length. That's a problem. Jones is fantastic at it. Aspinall has shown how good he is. I think Aspinall, just size-wise, is a problem. You know, Ankalaev would have to really gain good weight, and to gain good weight takes time. You know, so Could he do it? He could do it, but it's going to take time for him to be successful in doing it.
Yeah, I would agree with you. But I think also too, he has a tendency to sometimes just sit and wait for the fight to develop in front of him and pick and choose his shots. Yeah. Both of those guys understand that they're going to be bigger than him, probably physically stronger than him, and John being the longer fighter probably than him. And I'm not sure how much longer Tom Aspinall would be than him. They might be about equal, but physical size, like real walk around size, is going to go to Tom Aspinall.
And he's 6'5".
Yeah, I think also the speed. The speed, I think, will go to Tom Aspinall, even more so than Unk.
I believe so.
Yeah. And so if you're Unk alive and you don't have the speed advantage, you don't have the reach advantage, you don't have the size advantage, you need to make that fight happen. And that's going to be hard for the ticky-tack fight. You can't outpoint them if they're faster than you and if they're just all around bigger fighters than you. So that's going to be a very tough fight for him. I'm not going to count him out because
he's that good.
He's that good. He really is that good. He just has moments of where he just kind of he get complacent. He gets very complacent inside the cage and just allows the fight to slip away from him sometimes when he needs to reel it back in. And let's be honest, the Jan Blachowicz fight was not a very great performance where he had success early, and then as the fight developed, he didn't have success. And because of the calf kick or that inside bone kick or whatever you want to call it, but he has those type of tendencies to let that happen to him. He can't afford to do that with somebody like an Aspinall or a John Jones. But I'm not counting him out. I'm definitely not counting him out. Yeah. Dave, let's go ahead and talk. You said, why don't you read off to us about the Topuria and Chimaev situation?
Yeah, so ESPN MMA posted this post with Hamza and Ilya as they prepare to fight for the respective titles. Obviously, Ilya coming up from 45 as the champion, but now going for the lightweight gold against Charles. And then they posted their undefeated records. So Ilya is 16-0, Hamza at 14-0. And then they posted this cool little caption right here that reads, back in 2018, Hamza and Ilya trained with each other in Sweden 2 years before making their UFC debuts. 7 years later, they have each won fights in two different weight classes and are looking to become UFC champions within months of each other. So just wanted to get your take on, this current cream of the crop. Both guys coming in here undefeated, their journeys, setbacks, and get your guys' take on these two guys coming up, kind of almost together.
Go right ahead, man.
Look, he's sitting there saying that they were training together before they were both in UFC. They were both fighting in the bigger regional shows that were around them. Chimaev ended up down at Brave for a couple fights, but both of them were just dominating. You go back and you watch their fights, just dominating their competition. So it's, Josh, you've seen it. You've been at fights where you all of a sudden you watch a young fighter who's fighting someone on a good regional show that you've seen, multiple times, and you just watch that person inside the cage, and the person that they're fighting, and you go, "Oh, that kid's going to be good."
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you were looking at when you saw both Chimaev and Topuria. Topuria was so technically good, before he ever got to the UFC. He was tight with his boxing. His wrestling was good. He had a good submission game. He was, you didn't know what level of black belt, because, people get black belts and there's all different levels. But, they were saying he was a black belt. And then you saw when he went against certain people that you knew were really good, you go, yeah, he's for real there too. So you look and you go, them training together. Of course, it makes sense. Iron sharpens iron, or it breaks iron. It either sharpens or breaks depending upon who you're training with and how that training is going. Obviously, Chimaev is a bigger human being than Topuria. Okay. Here's a guy that, cuts down to 185 or was cutting all the way down to 170. He's bigger. And so, but training is training. And again, all kinds of things, happen in training, and you can train with a smaller fighter if you're the bigger guy, as long as you don't lose your mind. You've got to hold yourself back in certain areas. Don't put as much pressure as you can at certain times, because you got to say, hey, I've got to give space, and I got to do things to let this person who's a little bit smaller than me, I got to give them a chance to work and do what we're flowing through or whatever. But It makes sense. It makes sense that they both, kind of congregated towards each other, their backgrounds, everything. The 14-0 and 16-0 is just testimony to, well, there was something brewing there from the beginning, and it hasn't changed. So
it doesn't surprise me at all they were training together, especially when you're over in the Europe scene, whether it's Sweden, whether it's Spain, wherever you are in London and Ireland, it doesn't matter. Wherever you are over there, it does not surprise me. There's word gets around. When Cain Velasquez was coming up, hadn't even fought in Strikeforce yet. Heavyweights were coming in to train with him. And they're like, yeah, all it was buzz and word, and the media was coming. Ariel Helwani came out actually in person, not just to see him, but obviously to see the AKA guys. But there was a lot of buzz about Cain. He's like, hey, can I get a conversation? Can I interview this young guy? Everyone keeps talking about him. Then after seeing him work, and everyone coming in there realizing this guy's really good. And then buzz got out. It was, think about that. Cain, I think, only had two or three fights.
Two.
Before, because he had one Bodog.
Bodog. He had Strikeforce and Bodog.
I know he has Strikeforce, but is there one in Bodog or two in Bodog?
I was thinking only one in St. Petersburg.
Maybe, huh? I remember the St. Petersburg, but I wasn't sure if there was one more in there. Anyways,
problem was no one was going to fight him.
Yeah, that was the problem. That was the biggest problem. So they couldn't get a match. They couldn't get a matchup. So everyone was already talking about him. And I want to go even further back from Cain Velasquez. Was what we got there, Dave?
One Bulldog, one Strikeforce.
Yeah.
That's what we thought.
So just the two fights. And it was just the buzz. People were talking about him. That was it. And the media was talking about him. People came in, media came in just to see how good he was. Yeah. Arizona State wrestler, just basically just destroying these guys that were already high up in the scene. Guys that were already in the UFC or guys that were being looked at by the UFC. And he was just walking through them, putting so much pressure on them. But I'm going to go, like I said, even further back. Before the internet, when I was first started fighting, it literally came down to word of mouth. And how you got fights and how people got fights was basically word of mouth. If you would make a call, who do you guys have at the gym? Hey, we're going to have fights here And then you guys would just call the gym back and forth. Or the fight's still going. We're going to drive down on Friday. I know the fights are on Saturday. You know, is our hotel room covered? You know, like all that stuff. And then someone would see you fight and that video footage would get leaked out. They have this guy's fighting. This guy's really good. This guy's this guy's that. And then that's how the buzz got started, especially in the Northwest when you had Randy Couture, you had Dan Henderson, you had Matt Lindland, you had Evan Tanner, you had all those guys out of Portland, right? And then you had in Washington, you had like Misha Tate, Dennis Holman, Benji Raddick. There was a couple other guys, something Rodriguez. I'm trying to remember his name. He's a smaller guy. I think he knocked out Dennis Holman at one show. Chris Rodriguez, something.
There was a Chris Rodriguez.
There's somebody though. I can't remember. Anyways, there was a word of mouth of guys there. And then obviously Trevor and myself and a couple of our guys out of our camp out of Idaho. You know, it was just buzz got around. People just called gyms and you started getting these fights together. And realizing how good everyone was. And so word gets out. People know.
Paul Rodriguez.
So who?
Paul?
I guess, Dennis who?
Dennis Hallman.
Yeah, Dennis Holman.
Was it Paul Rodriguez?
I think it was Paul. So can you throw me some names early in this career? He got knocked out. He got knocked out badly.
Yep, he got KO punch in round 3.
Yeah.
18 seconds around 3.
Paul Rodriguez.
Yeah, I'm loading his profile, so maybe you'll recognize his face.
Small. He was a smaller, like short, stockier guy, thick legs. Anyways, just the word got around in these guys, and then I think Paul actually made it to ended up making it to the UFC, I believe. But yeah, there was just guys around. There was guys. I can't see; it's too small. But yeah, not sure. It's been so long.
He did KO'd Dennis Hallman.
I remember him KOing Dennis,
but he never fought in the UFC.
Oh, he didn't.
No.
Okay. But yeah, anyways, word gets around and it doesn't surprise me. When we're in Europe, Europe's not as big as everyone thinks. I mean, like you literally, like I was trying to explain to someone the other day, the DFW airport is as big as Paris. That's a fact. The DFW airport, yes. No, look it up, John. The DFW airport, landmass wise, is as big as Paris. The city, not France. Paris.
But I'm thinking.
Yeah. No,
dude, hold on. You and I have ridden bikes through Paris.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's a lot of fucking leg pumping going there.
The landmass of DFW airport is the size of Paris, bigger than Paris.
I believe. Okay.
Yeah. No, wait. Here it goes. Wait, maybe I'm wrong.
Is not as big as the city of Paris. Okay.
Okay. I read it was. Okay, I'm wrong.
It's much larger. Thank you.
It's only 15 square miles larger, so I mean, it's still. I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah, I get 15 square miles is quite. It is though, but yeah, okay. I saw Reddit the other day. I'm glad it's obviously been talked about because it's up there. As soon as you search it, it's right there.
It's at least half as big. How's that?
Yeah. Jeez. Anyways, all right. Sorry guys, I'm spreading misinformation on the pod. My bad.
I had that one right.
But it does not surprise me that these two found each other, got some work in together. I know the size difference was obviously significant, but I give them props. These guys come in when you know somebody is good, you try to make arrangements to try to train with them. Like you said, iron sharpens iron. Why would you not want to train with him? You know, like we've seen video footage of Chimaev in Thailand training with Yaroslav Amosov. I've seen him training with Luke Rockhold. You see him he's trained with Sean Strickland.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think of the smaller fighter who was he was training with
Kay Musa.
Yeah, Kay Musa. You know, and look, Kay Musa was a 145 pounder.
Yeah,
but he was he was not going full steam with him. He was stopping Musa from taking him down, and then when he finally made the mistake, slipped behind him. Gets the arm, goes for an arm bar and stuff, but nothing that was hard. And you go, hey, he's training and he's being a good training partner with someone who's a smaller fighter. And I'm sure that's what happened when they met up all that time back ago.
It makes sense for them to work together, train together. Glad to see both of them are having success. In terms,
will they be champions in the same?
They may be. They may be. Or one's already a champion. The other one potentially going to be.
No. There's no champion there.
One's
been a champion. Former champion.
All right, John. You're splitting hairs. One has been a former champion. One has been a UFC champion. Hasn't lost. Undefeated. Both are undefeated. I guess where I'm getting at this though is that Ilia Topuria has laid the groundwork very much how Conor did and what he can do moving forward. I don't want to make too many comparisons of him and Conor because, I mean, there's not really much. Sure, he's won the 45-pound title. They both have good knockout power. Topuria is not much of a kicker. Conor is a lot of his game is kicking. Takedown defense, they are equal. I wouldn't say Topuria is the better wrestler, obviously, and the better takedown defense. But got to be honest, Conor did a pretty damn good job when he fought Khabib and didn't show that type of takedown defense earlier in his career, but he did. He worked it a lot.
Much better.
Yeah, he got much better for the Khabib fight. It didn't work out for him, but you could tell how much he improved. The size of Topuria is phenomenal, man. Like in terms of how he utilizes his size and how he stays inside range, in boxing range, and he moves his head slightly. He boxes or fights MMA the way that a pro boxer would. It makes you miss by just a millimeter, of not taking the full grunt of the punch. Okay. And he makes you pay. He makes you pay. Yeah. So I look at his fight coming up with Charles Oliveira. This is going to be obviously, I believe, his toughest test to date, only based on the fact that Charles is unique all the way around. As much as Ilia Topuria says that he's unique all the way around, but Max Holloway is all mainly striking. Volkanovski, I would say, is mainly striking. He's got some good ground and pound too when he gets to the top position. Yep. He's a full, well-rounded fighter, but he does lack the submission area. But I think Topuria can do it all. His fight with Charles Oliveira is going to be very telling. It's going to be very telling.
It's going to be great.
What's your take on the Chimaev situation and moving forward with him and his success coming up, John? I've obviously been a little bit of a critic of him in terms of his success. And it's not even so much of being a critic. It's more about that I just haven't seen enough of a sample size on him. And I continue to say this, and I know people want to dog on me for it. I could give two shits because you guys are here watching me still. But it just comes down to that there are reasons to go back and go, hey, I can see where you're coming from here on this. I can see why you think this. And there was some of that too with me with Ilia, with the Max doing the cut back down, Volkanovski coming off, the head kick knockout. Yeah. It's worked out for both of them in their successes coming up. It's worked out for both of them. I guess I just know the history of the UFC, right? They have found ways to make sure that the people that are bringing the eyeballs make it to the top of the line. These guys put their asses on. They fight their asses off. They fight hard. They fight intense. I love watching both of them fight. These guys, when we were just talking about this, John, what is the UFC lacking right now? They're lacking these type of guys. Yeah. That's what they're lacking.
Well, you want the people that, people that it's so hard to make a star in today's, world of how many fights the UFC has. Because of the fact that you have to have that big of a roster, then you've got to give these people these fights. You can't do this, prolonged build up on anything because you have a fight that's that very, week before that person. So you got to break everything down to basically a week's time to do the whole thing with them. And you look and you go, it's not only the marketing of the promotion, the fighter has to do the things that catches the public's eye. That's what Khamzat did when he first came in. He comes in, he's a replacement fighter, and he just beats the dog shit out of his first opponent, and he gets up and says, I want to fight next week, and he does. Yeah. And you look and you go, all right, that's what people are looking for. And then he goes and he just destroys that fighter, and then he says, I want to fight again, and they're thinking, oh, this guy's going to fight every month. He's going to pull, if you remember the old Mike Tyson, he used to fight once a month in his younger years. And you look and you go, that's the kind of thing. It's not only the promotion, it's what does the fighter do? Does he finish people? Does he catch that spark that makes someone go, man, I like to watch this guy because he is talking. And it's not that he has to have great English, but he has to have some that gets across that says, this is what I'm going to do. If there's one thing, people want to say about Conor McGregor, they can say anything they want. What made him just catch with everyone is when he said something, he made it happen. He wasn't lying. He would say, I'm going to knock this guy out. I'm going to do it. He was called Mystic Mac all of a sudden. And He backed it up. And when you do that, when you call it out, you say this is what I'm going to do, and then you go and you do it, that's what makes a star.
Yeah. No, I would agree. Look, let's go through Chimaev right now. Like his first fight with John Phillips, Bravo choke, and then he hits Rise McKee TKO. Then he goes Gerald Mearshart KO. I mean, this is all within, what is it? It says it's July 15th of 2020, July 25th of 2020, September 19th of 2020, October 30th of 2021. So he had that time off in the Gerald Mearshart and Zhang Liang Li, but then he gets out there and he fights. You know, this is during that time. That year off was because of COVID.
Yep.
So then he comes back. He gets a dominant performance against Lee, and then he fights Gilbert Burns, which I don't think Gilbert's won a fight since before that. And so, let me ask you this, and I'm no way am I. I'm just saying, hey,
you might have won.
Does that take away from
Stephen Thompson?
He beat Magny and Masvidal.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay. I was going to ask you, does that take away from what Chimaev has done? He's won fight since then. So Gilbert Burns, and then he beats Kevin Holland, dismantle him. Kevin Holland made the weight at 170, but then Chimaev didn't, so they ain't making the switch.
Exactly.
You know, Kamaru Usman comes in on 5 days' notice. You know, he beats majority decision on that fight, and then he beats Robert Whittaker by submission in the face crank. Very nicely done. Works his way all the way to the title. That's a legit roster of guys going through. You know, I think what's throwing kind of throwing me off a little bit was the drop down to 70, missing weight, not having a great performance against Gilbert Burns, even though Gilbert Burns is a top guy. He actually made weight for that fight. Yep. You know, but then obviously losing the third round, or not. I don't know if did he lose the third round, because he got dropped in that third round. People were telling me that he won the third round. I thought he lost the third round. Maybe I'm wrong. But regardless, ends up having, struggles in the third round. Halfway through the fight, starts getting tired, and then he struggles in the third round, and then goes on, and then, he fights Kevin Holland in the next fight, then misses weight by a lot. Fights Kevin Holland because he's supposed to fight Nate Diaz, and then he fights Kamaru Usman. And then
Dave, do me a favor.
Mm-hmm.
Go to Verdict MMA and see what they said as far as the way people saw the rounds for Burns versus Chimaev.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Continue on.
No. And so I'm getting into this only based on the fact that he has a innate ability to just dominate when he is on point, Josh, and through that round.
Josh, it's not only name me the fighter that in the first round he has not dominated. It's, I always say that Habib has been the most dominant fighter that I ever saw in the cage. Mm-hmm. And that still remains because he did it in the second and third round. But in the first round, Chimaev dominates really good fighters. Look what he did with Kamaru Usman.
Yeah.
He dominated.
That fight could have been stopped in the first round.
Could have been. I'm not saying I thought it should have.
You meant MMA decisions, right?
You go to MMA decisions. That's fine.
So did they have Chimaev? Yeah, I can see a little bit. It's a little small. There you go. Chimaev won in the third on
Chimaev won the third.
Or all three.
Gilbert Burns, all judges had Gilbert winning the second. So it was even going into the third, and he pulls it out.
Wow, even going into the third.
Yeah. Because he had a really good round against Gilbert in the first round, if you remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look, it may not, John, I'm just going to be out. It may not have to do with COVID. It may just be that he is a guy that runs that type of high octane. He runs so high on a high rev system that he just doesn't understand the control of it yet. Those guys happen all the time. Guys that they fight guys that they've just been able to run through. And then they're going to run into that guy that just, oh, I'm still here.
Well, you're not going to, you can't just run through great competition. Great competition is going to match up with great competition. But I will say that first round, he's won every first round I've ever seen. Okay. So he's been dominant in those first rounds for the most part. And, a lot of it is, sometimes it's you have to learn when to back it off at times. You know, start to say, I'm burning energy right here and it's not working. Let me slow down.
Yeah.
You know, and this is just, that's just part of becoming that veteran fighter. And at 14-0, he's got a lot of fights, but he's still right. He's right at that point where you start to say, okay, you know, he's a veteran fighter and he should have learned these things by now, because it's somewhere around the 15 fight mark is when we say, yeah, he should know those things. So it's, you know, it's telling. He is, as far as attitude, the way that he approaches the fight and trying to psychologically get into his opponent's minds, the way that he, you know, goes out and performs, you can't find a lot of fault in the things that he's doing. He's fun.
No, absolutely. Like when we had this discussion, 2 weeks ago, I said, this is like, we're lacking these kind of fighters, these guys that are dogs. That's what we're lacking. And one thing that Topuria showed in his Jai Herbert fight, he got rocked in that fight, came back and wins the fight. That's what you want. You want to see these type of guys make a comeback, because right now they're not in the UFC. For some reason, we're lacking those guys. Right now, they're all making business decisions.
Yeah, a lot of them.
And I think with Topuria, when he came in with a little bit of swagger about him. But then, you know, obviously the Jai Herbert thing kind of rocked him, stunned him, realized that, hey, it doesn't matter if you're on the lower end or the higher end, they're all tough. And then I think that snapped him into shape, going, hey, I've got to start making sure that I'm on point for every single fight. And his confidence just grew every single fight. Chimaev came in super confident. He came in with the swag about him, like, oh, you know, like, Dana, watch this. I can do this. I can do that. Like, he's already asking for a fight. The following week, takes the fight.
Yep.
I mean, when people say, you know, get out, you know, whatever, sit on the pot and share, whatever the hell it is, right? He literally just, he went through it. He did it all. He's like, no, I'll take the fight next week. Nah. I'll take the fight next week. Okay, fine. We'll give it to you. Okay, cool. Send me the contract. And he's fighting. Like, guys talk about it, but then
it's not easy to do. It's not easy to do. The next day, no matter what, you're a little. If you've had any kind of you feel it.
Yeah. Not only do you feel it, but you're also that relief of being done.
Yeah.
That feels good.
Yeah,
like, I accomplished something and like went to the camp. I made the weight. I
can breathe for a little bit here.
Exactly. Now I'm going to do it again next week or 2 weeks, whatever it is. And guess what? He did it. Fantastic. And so they really are. And what these two guys have, that like, Islam's funny in a certain way, right? Like you have to get it out of him, but he's funny in a certain way. Habib had his funniness in a certain way. Fighters that were really good, their creativity, but their personality comes out in ways that people admire. These two guys, they're great on the mic. They're great in interviews. They do a good job prepping their fight, like, you know, basically building up their fight. They're not just guys out there like, oh, I'm not going to say anything bad and be respectful. I understand being respectful, but these guys know how to sell. Yeah, and if you're the UFC, I can see why they're building them up, putting them on there. Out of these two guys, though, which one loses their O first?
Oh, well, they're both in championship fights now. If I'm going to say one's going to lose their fight, boy, that's a tough one, because, you know, both of them can win and both of them could lose in their next ones. But I would say if I was going to say,
that's literally the definition of fighting, John.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that you noticed that. I would say the one with the biggest chance of losing first would be Chimaev.
Why is that?
Just based upon the awkwardness of DDP, the fact that Duplessis is very physically strong, and he does, even though he seems to gas, he seems to be able to continue on, and he gets a second wind a lot, and he does very well when he's got, you know, someone who he can start to put the pressure on. I'm not sure that he's going to be able to make it to that point with Chimaev, though. You know, that's the real question. You know, I look at that fight and I go, if that fight goes, you know, in the first, you know, 2 rounds, we have a winner, it's going to be Chimaev. If it goes into the 5th round, I'm going to say that's going to be, you know, Duplessis. So it's really the question of, you know, how does he get rid of an incredibly tough, awkward fighter? Mm-hmm. I look at Topuria, I think, has a clear road with, even though Charles Oliveira is, one of my favorite fighters. He's just just fun to watch. He is in that position where he has been there. It's tough to get it back. He's getting a little bit older. He's not old, but he doesn't have the power that Topuria has. I don't think he has the power. He doesn't match up there. If he gets into a gunslinging match, and the real reason is, I look at it this way: if it's on the outside, Charles can do well with Topuria. If Topuria can close that half step on him and get into that pocket, Charles is going to have a hard time with him. Topuria inside in that pocket is just, he's dynamite in there. The way he moves, he has got beautiful footwork, beautiful head movement, and he hits at just fantastic angles. So,
So you're going to say Chimaev's going to go. Interesting. Can I throw a caveat in there?
Go ahead.
I'm going to say if Topuria's next opponent is Arman Sarukian, I think Arman beats him.
That's different.
It is. But that's my thing. Like my caveat, I didn't say which one's going to lose like this next fight. I say which one.
Yeah, that's true. You didn't.
So if that's the case, I would say like if his next opponent is Arman, whereas Chimaev, I think if he beats DDP, it's kind of smooth sailing for him. And Imavov might give him a hard time. Might.
Yeah.
But will he fight? Will he fight next? Because I keep hearing buzz that it's not going to be him. It may be potentially Kai Bahalo. They want to just basically leapfrog Imavov. Now,
Nasruddin is so good now, and he's now has that confidence. You can see it in the way he's approaching his fights. He's in that nice little tunnel, that little flow that you can get into, and you just keep on rolling with it. He's the one. His wrestling is good enough that he can stop Chimaev from some of the takedowns, I believe. And in the stand-up, I like the way Chimaev goes about his stand-up, but I think Nasruddin Imavov is just better. He's just better.
on the feet, yeah. On the feet, I believe the same thing. Yeah. I also believe the same thing. I think the lateral movement, his footwork, Imavov,
his ability to control range is really impressive.
Yep. So I think both of them could be in a lot of trouble their next two fights.
Yeah.
That's
what fighting is.
I am leaning towards DDP to get the win over Chimaev, especially if it gets past round 1.5. But I mean, that's it. He's gonna. I don't know. I've never seen Chimaev go 5 rounds, and
that's because he hasn't.
There you go. And so I always have that question mark. And maybe he shuts me up. Maybe he gets people. Maybe he makes everyone. He proves me wrong and makes everyone believe that this guy's the guy. Because I mean, like I'm reading some of the comments now right now as they're posting, and. Look at this guy. D, laugh my ass off. Topuria owns Armand. What the fuck is Josh yapping about? Yo, D, you can suck on D's nuts. No, it was bottom line. But D, I love you, buddy. I'm just giving you some love, man. Old man Dave, Flow State, love it. Giovanni Perez, I'm still bitter. We never got Armand versus Islam. I'm kind of bitter about that as well. But I think Armand.
Yeah, we did.
Now we did the first time. Yeah. But I think we're looking forward to seeing these two guys progress, have success. Whoever loses first, I honestly believe is going to come back even stronger.
And hold on, if what's his name doesn't do the whole thing with D's nuts, you can always put Doe's nuts on OnlyFans because fucking Corey Sandhagen made $2 million in a month showing his nuts.
He said, "No shaft, just my nuts."
Yeah, no shaft, just nuts.
Just balls.
Yeah, squeeze them a little, let them hang. Dude, Josh,
that's a little weird.
Josh, $2 million.
I don't believe it. I just don't believe it.
I don't even want to know.
Doesn't strike me as a guy that would
I thought it was hysterical when dude, Mike Perry was just going off. He was having a great time with it, but I was just cracking up. I thought it was funny as hell.
I just don't believe it.
I just don't believe it.
Corey strikes doesn't.
The worst part is we sit here all the time and talk about athletes that are on, and we've used Corey Sandhagen, right, and stuff, and we tell people, hey, as long as you don't look at the smut, you don't have to. Well, don't go to Corey's page.
Oh man, I don't know, man. 2 million's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Redunculous.
Redunculous.
I mean, John, if I started just showing just my balls, and then, I mean, we're both attached to that weighing in page. So
That's true.
John got panic mode all of a sudden. He's like, wait, people are going to think those are my saggy balls. If you guys haven't followed us over at OnlyFans, join us over at OnlyFans. We don't show our balls.
We have done Manscaped commercials, so we've got the equipment, right?
We have a really cool Manscaped commercial, by the way. I was very happy. We made that up. Dave came up. Did you come up with the idea, right?
You came up with the idea, and then of course, execution was.
I think he's the one that put it together.
He did, absolutely, he did.
Yeah.
Well, I had to force John to do it because we were doing we were in Bellator Pachanga Casino, doing a show, and I was like, hey, we literally have an hour or two to get this thing done. So hey, we have to film with this, and this, and he's like, okay. The best part though was the very end when I walked out of the hotel with no pants on.
Oh yeah,
that was funny.
Room. That was great, man.
Well, while you're plugging people that aren't paying you any money, can I do a little plug for one of our awesome retro shirts?
Look at that, Memorial Day.
It's a weighing in shirt with a camel, and then Memorial Day. Legit, right?
You designed that, didn't you?
I designed that as well.
Yes, you did.
I do all the cool stuff around here.
I do all the work.
Cool. He for yeah, pretty much.
I do all the work.
So yeah, that was an old throwback one. And then it's funny, I was just looking at my Cinco de Mayo one in my closet too the other day. There was another one we had. What was the other one?
Independence Day. I wear that every year.
Yeah, I have that one too.
And I think it was.
I don't have that one though. I don't know where that one went.
Maybe we gotta get him back up.
Yep. All right. Well, hey, what else you got for us, Dave?
All right, I want to get your reaction to Tom Aspinall. It looks like he has come out of the "Where's my fight" and he's now doing a bit of the John Jones trolling. Get your reaction to these tweets that he put out, or Instagram. It looks like. He posted yesterday, heavyweight news coming soon, and then he wrote, sorry guys, I'm fighting for a new belt, interim of the interim BMF UFC heavyweight title, living my best life, and then he puts third one, UFC announced my fights, guys, not me. Sad face.
Yeah. Like I've said, I hope he fights soon. I don't care who he fights. I want to see him fight. I don't want him to waste any more of his career. I don't want him to be looked at as a Michael Chandler. I want to see him move on. I want to see him have success. And the more success he has, I think the more willing John Jones will be like, okay, look, I have something to come back and prove. I don't think right now John's not living his best life. Just move on, man.
I don't know. John's saying he's living his best life, but I heard, he's having some hard times with the Russian production of the fighting show that he's doing. So he's look at he's got his hands full with what's going on there. He's a busy man, but he's gonna have to make a decision fairly soon. And Dana's come out and said it. Dana's come out and said we don't have any money, because John was saying, oh, the UFC knows what I'm doing. Well, they know that he's shooting a show. They know what he's doing over there. But that doesn't mean that they know the date that he's gonna fight right now, or they agreed to, or anything. Or that I'm going to take time off. You just don't take time off. Okay, you can have, hey, I need some time off because my wife's going to have a baby in a month. Okay, that's understandable. That works. It's not, oh, I'm just going to take some time off, and when I'm ready, I'll contact you. Doesn't work that way. So they have to have a schedule. They have things on the board, plans with fights, and they really want to put that fight together. So John's got a little bit of time.
Alejandro Gutierrez, super chat. Josh, your thoughts on Chimaev are interesting when you mention he hasn't been 5 rounds. Does that rationale also apply to Aspinall lack of 5 rounds? LOL. Actually, Alejandro, yes, it does. Look, I am a firm believer in Tom Aspinall going to 5. I think he'll be able to do it. I am a little skeptical, though, in rounds 4 and 5. Will he be the same? Will he have the same movement? Will he have the same ability to get up from the bottom if John Jones takes him down? The last thing you want is fucking John on top of you when you're tired. That guy will cave your face in with his elbows.
Yep.
Like, he's probably one of the nastiest. And when I say nasty, I mean like mean. Like, he is mean when he's in the top position with his elbows. You talked about Carlos Condit having a mean streak.
Yeah.
John's
one of those guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's all fun and games, smile, laugh. I'm having a good time until he's knocking your skull in. That guy is nasty on top. Some of the best ground and pound I've ever seen in my life comes from John Jones. The Tom Aspinall comparison, it absolutely does. I get nervous for any fighter I haven't seen go 5 rounds against top competition. And I've trained several times for 5-round fights, several times. And there's been a difference in every single camp. Just trying to get through the camp. You're adding 2 more rounds of grappling, 2 more rounds of wrestling, 2 more rounds of mitt work, 2 more rounds of sparring. Like, it's a lot. It's like a whole nother 2 days of training you're adding, but just in the same 5-day period. And so there's a lot, more sprints, a little bit more sprints, a little bit longer run. All of those things takes a toll on your body in a 5-round fight. So yeah, it does. I do have some skepticism on whether Tom will be the same guy in rounds 4 and 5, because he's so dang good in rounds 1, 2, and 3. I do, or 1, 2, I should say. I do have some skepticism there, but I also look at Chimaev. Also, from what I've seen from Tom Aspinall, and where I've seen with Chimaev runs, like I said, on that high octane for rounds 1 and 2, and then he just dies out. Tom Aspinall, we've seen him go into rounds 2 and 3. It's not the same. So he's just he's the same. Sorry, he is the same all the way across. So I don't see a big deal with that.
I haven't seen Tom Aspinall drop off in his level of performance from one round to the next. But and when we're a lot of when you're talking about it, it's like you can see guys slow down at times. Sometimes it's on purpose. Sometimes it's fatigue, and you're looking at it going, "No, he's tired." But let me ask you this. So this is my question for you.
Mm-hmm.
We're just talking about 5-round fights. And you were talking about all the extra training and everything that goes with if you've got that 5-round fight. What's your feeling about, because I'm all for, the UFC doing 5-round, main events, even if it's not a championship fight, because they pay their fighters well. And that's part of, kind of getting ready for, in my opinion, those 5-round championship fights. What's your opinion of smaller regional shows doing these championship fights where you have young fighters fighting 5 rounds for $1,000, $1,500? I'm serious.
Look, as a manager, you schedule your guys to have success, but I would never want to be the champion of a regional show. Even though I didn't have to fight the 5 rounds because luckily enough back then my fights didn't go 5 rounds. But it just simply comes down to, like, I would play the manager as a manager. I would say, hey, give me the guys that the UFC is looking at, because I know that's where we need to go. And those are the guys that they're looking at or had conversations about. I want my guy to fight him. And that's it. For a 3-round fight, we beat him. We don't have to worry about training for a 5-round. We don't have to worry about fighting 5 rounds, taking that amount of damage. No, I don't see any benefit of fighting for a title in the LFA. And no disrespect to LFA. I love what they do. They are a fantastic promotion. Fury Fight, same thing. I was just at one of their shows a couple months back. Great. They do a great job of building up their fighters, having great crowd, everything. Awesome. I don't see, if I'm someone that I know I have a fighter that's going to have success, I'm not trying to have him fight for a title in a lower regional show. I know what I have. Just have him keep winning. Keep winning, and then eventually you'll have if the UFC says, hey, I want him to fight that guy who's the champion, then that's different. You got to do it. I don't think
let's say you're a commission. Would you think it would be right for commissions to sit there and say, hey, you have to pay a fighter a minimum of, we'll say, $15,000 to have them fight a 5-round fight? Because $15,000 is different than the $2,500 or the $1,500 or any of those. So it's almost, okay, you're getting paid for those extra, because you only have, in my opinion, like I always say, you only have so many rounds.
Yeah.
And sometimes, some of these fights, they're great. I'm not saying they're not, but these guys are losing a part of who they are in these lower level shows, in these championship fights, making no money. It's, in some ways, I'm like, man.
You brought up commission. I mean, that's like basically saying, which it basically is, the government is now going to tell me how to run my business.
The government is always telling you how to run your business, dude. And if you don't think governments are telling, fight promotions, things that they can do and things that they can't.
I understand that, but like forcing them to pay 15, let's just say, are you just throwing a hypothetical number, 15 grand?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so if you're just saying like, hey, it's going to cost you 15 grand to run a title fight. Is that for both fighters or is that for
no. 15 each.
Then there won't be any small promotions left.
There won't be any 5-round fights. It's not, they can do the same fight at 3 rounds for $1,500.
I mean, there'll be no title on the line then. Like that's what separates a championship fight is 10 versus 12. Like in boxing, are they going to do the same thing for boxing then in the lower level shows?
There are lower level boxing where you'll get a 6-round championship fight, an 8-round championship fight, depending upon what the belt is. So.
I don't like it. And look, I'm not saying that I like these guys having to fight 5 rounds in a small show. I don't like having.
So you don't like the fact that they're fighting a 5-round fight because they've only got so many fights.
I love the idea of them making 15 grand. I love that idea.
They can do it. It's just up to the promotion.
This all can be avoided if your manager does a good job. It really can. Like, look, I don't need to fight for a title in a small show. I just got to beat the guys that I know the UFC is looking at. That's it. And that conversation can be had. Like, hey, who are guys that you guys are possibly looking at? That's a conversation between your manager, Sean Shelby, Mick Maynard. I mean, Hunter Campbell. Those are conversations to be had. What guys are you guys looking at? Who can I fight out there to get me into the UFC? I mean, Yaroslav Amosas just beat was it Curtis Merlander?
Yeah, Curtis Merlander.
Okay. He just beat him. They didn't pick him up off of it. He beat him in like a minute and a half, 2 minutes or something.
That's because
they're not high on him. We get it. I think he's extremely talented. I'd love to see him in the UFC. But yeah, that's all I would do is I would just contact them and be like, hey, who are the guys that are out there that my guy can fight? Whether it's LFA, Fury, whatever competition, whatever promotion is, Cage Warriors, or is it Cage Warriors?
Cage Warriors.
Yeah, whatever, wherever they're at, I'll go there.
All of these, well, not all, LFA, Cage Warriors, Invicta. You got to figure. See, all of those, the UFC funds those shows.
Yeah.
Okay, so the UFC basically pays for all of, MMA in some way or another. All right. The only ones that they don't right now would be, they don't do it with one. They don't do it with the PFL. But, a lot of these smaller shows, the ones that, I just mentioned, look at the UFC gives them money to do their shows.
Yeah. A lot of them are on UFC Fight Pass. UFC Fight Pass gives them a certain percentage, gives them a certain amount of money to put on the production to make it UFC Fight Pass. Compatible. Yeah. Yeah, look, I think they've got to do something. The UFC has to do something to have feeder leagues. If all the smaller promotions just realize that I'm going to go out of business doing this, then they won't start them. There'll be some randoms that do it, but then it'll go back to, gyms, just putting them on inside their gyms. Hey, come to my gym. We'll just fight smokers.
We're doing smokers.
We'll pay you $200 if you come and you win. We'll give you $200. I mean, it's going to end up maybe going back to that.
Dude, I never pay someone $200.
I got a couple of input from people, a couple of guys on OnlyFans. I put out a poll just saying, should the UFC move on from Jones Aspinall, and then comment any kind of opinion you have below. So LGTO says, Dana always mentions how no one gets special treatment, and we literally saw 2 champs be told to relinquish their belts. Granted, Ilya has no plans of going back down, but there's no explanation for Islam to relinquish. Yeah, Jones makes everyone wait while he parties it up. This is a sport of what have you done for me lately? And honestly, he's just a big version of Connor right now. Hello and goodbye says 100% move on from the fight. It's just a fight and no need to waste time there with Jones. Personally, I'd cut him and let someone else deal with him because all the issues he's bringing, he doesn't bring enough revenue to justify the headache, and I'm just watching.
Yeah, I'm not on board with cutting him. You can not release him, but you can strip him. Yeah, strip him and just say, hey, like he said, do you think I care about the belts? He's got 14 of them sitting on his fucking dresser.
He's got more than that.
You know what I mean? Like he doesn't care anymore. Like another belt's not going to make him feel better about himself. Like, so just let him be. If you stripped him, he would still probably jump in and fight Tom Aspinall next, just to prove that, hey, you stripped me, and now I'm going to prove you that I can get it again. So, I mean, for me, honestly, that situation is, I believe that like John Jones is not somebody. If he rides off in the sunset, no one's going to care. They want to move on anyways. The heavyweight division. People are talking about that more so about Tom just fighting on than they are talking about John coming back. It's different from the Conor situation. Conor, were like, when is Conor fighting? You have actors and stars and media stuff talking about when's Conor fighting. They're not talking about like when's he going to fight so and so. They just care if he's fighting. That's different from John. They're saying when's he going to fight Tom Aspinall. There's just a difference there. The media is still, even till this day, they're still asking. Just the other day, someone asked Dana, so have you talked to Conor? Is he fighting soon? I saw he put out a post. He's like, I haven't talked to him in a minute. He's not fighting soon. So people still ask about Conor fighting. John Jones, they're not asking like when he's fighting again. They're asking when he's going to fight Tom. That's it. They don't care about anything else. If he rides off, no one cares, John. I think it'll be less than 6. Because think about this. We've only seen him fight twice in 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
That's just not enough.
I mean, when you say no one cares, there are people out there that are big fans of John, and they're going to care. They're going to care that if he gets stripped, they're going to care if he rides off into the sunset. Mm-hmm. But I think as a majority of fans, especially now, don't have that much interest in him. They just don't. They just don't see him enough.
Do you think he ruined his legacy doing this?
No, he didn't ruin his legacy, but he put,
I mean, I already have an asterisk next to it, but go ahead, John.
And, well, I know he's got multiple asterisks next to it, but he definitely put that question mark by this whole thing, which I think he does to, he likes to push buttons. He likes to, do things that, other people don't even think about doing and stuff, and to irritate and to cause, someone to have to, or want to respond to what he says or anything. Hell, he still has DC responding to things he says. You look and you go, and he was able to truly get into DC's head and under his skin, and he enjoys that. He likes it, and so in the end, I'm not sure it's going to ruin. It's not going to ruin who he was as a fighter, as far as the way his standing is about how good he was. He was good. He's the, if you're going to be honest, the guy who went out there and he wins them all. It's okay. You can sit there. I totally understand what you say about, the PEDs and things like that. And it has been proven. So, you can sit there and say it, but I think even without the PEDs, he would have been that guy.
You'll never know.
You're right. I won't.
Yep. It's hard. It's just hard to go any further. I mean, like, hey, he's this and that and this and that, but we'll never know. Go ahead, Dave. What you say?
No, you're good. Just going to say to the chat here, anyone that can't super chat, if you drop a question over an OnlyFans, I'll get to that as well. So drop it in the OnlyFans live chat, and I'll get to your question if you're unable to super chat over here on YouTube or anywhere else. Next super chat, can I go to it?
Yeah, 1 second. Hey, Tommy D, thank you for being a fan of Josh and mine, and be safe there. He works with NYPD, so be safe out there.
Oh, my man, be safe out there.
You need it.
Alejandro asks, John, can you tell us how you felt when Jones choked Machida? Were you concerned how John dropped him like he was nothing? It was scary.
That was one of those. You're looking for certain things, and when John had a hard time with Machida in the first round. Machida gave him problems and hit him hard. And I'm going to say that it was fascinating to me to watch him absolutely change the course of that fight in the second round and how he did it. And he changed, several things that he was doing. His timing was getting just thrown off by Machida. And all of a sudden he switched a couple of things with his footwork and the way he entered, and he caught Machida with a shot that hurt him. And when you look at the choke, the choke was I knew it was on super tight, and I didn't think he was going to get out of it. So it was a matter of trying to watch. Well, he's the problem with, his face was down, and I'm looking at it, and John is turning his eyes away from me. And then finally, you can see his arm, drop. And when his arm drops, I would always count, to make sure that they're out. I'm going to go 1001, 1002, boom, and I'll stop the fight. And, when I came up to grab, I'm trying to release John's arms to take the pressure off the choke, and he decides to actually really let go. And so I didn't have control of Machida at the time. And I thought, yeah, there was something that happened in the back before that fight that told me exactly what, the level of John's maturity was. And so it was kind of like the filler on the entire night. But, hey, he just dropped him out, and he can do that. But it was, if you're the champ, you don't have to do it.
Machida was definitely giving him problems. The movement, and that's what Machida does. But for him to figure it out, it says a lot about him and his fight IQ and his abilities. Definitely,
it does.
Definitely. Like, one thing you can't take away from him, because steroids doesn't enhance this, is his fight IQ. He's an extremely smart fighter. Extremely smart fighter.
Yep.
The little adjustments he can make. He uses, obviously, his talent, every little bit of talent he has, and his athleticism, he uses to the full extent. Yeah. And he does that because he's got a very high fight IQ. One of the best, if not the best, I've ever seen. You can't knock him for that.
No.
But like I said, all the other stuff that he's brought upon himself, he's brought it upon himself. So that's the thing, is the judgment people put on him is based on the things that he's done.
Well, the judgment that people put on him are things that he's done outside of the cage for the most part. That's the real thing.
Yeah, I mean, depends on,
It's outside of the cage. Look, even the PEDs are outside of the cage.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that. Yeah.
Remember Machado asked John, so what happened in the back? Question mark.
That'll stay between me. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Between you? Like
between you?
Like sandwiched in between your face? Or?
Yeah. There was an individual. I'll tell you right now. Yeah, I'm not going to say exactly what happened, but I'll give you an idea. As the referee, knowing that I've got the fights that I have, I go in the back and I talk to each and every fighter on their own. And I had worked with John before, and I'm pretty good friends with Greg Jackson, so we always would stand there or sit there and shoot the shit. But when I went into John's locker room, he's bouncing around, he's having a good time, and he said, I got a question for you. I said, yeah, what's your question? And he says, I need somebody. And there's an individual there, and that individual was a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and was working for the commission. And he says, is someone getting on the ground for me, right? And so this guy, being a ground guy and being someone that was, man, I'm in John Jones's locker room. This is great. And so he says, oh, I'll do it for you. He says, I know how to roll. And so he goes down. He says, just put me in guard, right? And then John decides to do a sexual act with him, saying, what if I do this, right? This isn't illegal, right? And the guy who was on the ground, quickly his eyes went, as big as they could get. Like, what are you doing? And I said, John, knock it off, right? And I helped the person up, and he goes, I'm just joking. And he goes, but really, what could you do? I said, I could disqualify you for being unsportsmanlike. Go ahead and do it. Let's see what happens. This is why John and I never really got along, is I didn't put up with the shit, and that's just the way it is. It's okay.
I could see if he did that like with a buddy of his, like goofing around in the back. It's different than some random commissioner in the back, a random fan, or random person who's working as an usher or something like that. You're like, yeah, get down here, and then you do it to some person you've never met before.
Dude, and that's why Greg Jackson comes up to me and says, John, I'm sorry he did that. And I go, Greg, it ain't you. And I go, he's just a dipshit.
Yep. I mean, like I said, a lot of the choices that he's made throughout his life has directly affected, I think, how people perceive him.
Yeah.
And sadly, it's not in a good light. I think him going full heel was definitely probably one of the better things that he's done.
Oh, yeah.
He's played it very well. And I don't know if he's playing it. This might just be who he is. But like I said, I don't want to take away from his abilities to be in terms of fight IQ and his talents. That's definitely there. But like I said, for me, there will always be a question mark or an asterisk next to his name because of the steroids. Because I also look at it too. Once the picograms had been discovered, have you noticed that his fights became a lot closer after that? His fights with Santos, his fights with Anthony Smith, his fights with Dominic Reyes, all of his fights were closer after that. A lot closer.
Okay, so how close have his fights been now? Not very.
No, not very. No.
Yeah.
No, but John, are we gonna say like?
I think a lot of it is he got bored.
Yeah,
and it's understandable.
I'm on the bandwagon with you on that.
Yeah,
I
he
am.
got bored, and that's understand. It's one of the things I talk about. With being the champ all the time is you don't have a target to shoot for. You're always the target, and that's tough. So that has a lot to do with it, in my opinion.
Yep, I couldn't agree more with that. But it just seemed like it happened to be around the same time.
Yeah,
and so that puts more doubt in a lot of people.
But when he had, and I'm going to use your man again, Cormier, when he had fights that interested him,
yeah,
he performed. And look at it's. And I'll say this: I thought that I was the referee for his Dan Cormier, John Jones #2 fight, and I thought Dan was doing everything he could to be in that fight and to give John trouble. He was working hard, but he was being effective with what he was trying to do. He just made a mistake, but it was a mistake that John set him up on.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens. It's just, it happens. But I look at that fight, and that fight shows me that's how, if John gets up for a fight, yeah, he's really good. I mean, it's tough to stop him.
Go ahead, Dave.
All right, John, you've touched on this one before, so but let's just get it in the super chat here. Alejandro asks, has there ever been discussions of giving the commission and referees 20 to 30 minutes at post-fight press conference to explain any controversial rulings?
Yes, there has been conversations about that, and athletic commissions for the most part do not like it. They don't want to have their officials being put in front of the media, because this is the real thing is, look at, first off, how long that person has been there, because when you go to a show, you're there earlier than the earliest fighter for the most part. So if the show is going to start at, we'll say, let's say 3:00 Pacific time, it's in Vegas. So you're there usually by 2. Okay. And then you go through all the preliminaries, and you're talking fight, you're doing fights and all that. And you go all the way through the end. That show's probably going to end somewhere around 11:30 Pacific time. Okay. So you've been there close to 10 hours. All right. And so now you go in the back and you have a meeting with the athletic commission. And so you've been there because that meeting usually, sometimes it's short, but a lot of times it's long. So we'll say it takes an hour. So now you've been there for, basically 12 hours over the course of it. And now, the media, you're going to go in front of the media, and they just look at it and they don't want it. They look at it and say, that'll be my responsibility as the executive director or any of those. I'll go talk to them. My officials are not going to go talk to them. Yeah. I always thought it was a good idea. But the problem is, not every official can say things the way they want to. They'll have a hard time explaining it. I thought it was a good idea.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, no.
Look, we're friends with enough of the referees and judges, and all you're doing is open up a can of worms. Yeah. Let it be, man. And we saw what happened with the Henry Cejudo and Jason Herzog situation. Yeah, can you imagine that in every fight?
Yeah.
Every time.
Well,
John,
let's be honest. Henry Cejudo was a little dirty on that.
Okay, but look, even the Dan Murrieta with the 10-second clapper, can you imagine him going it's loud, it's this, it's that. And Dan's a great guy.
Yep.
But him being up there in front of the media and them just trying to pry, I don't think it'd be a good situation, my man.
No, I don't either.
And I like Dan a lot. That's
what I said. That's the whole thing.
And then what happens as soon as you speak, they're going to twist your words, it's going to turn into something else, and then every fighter's gonna be like, no. Then what you're going to end up with is all the good referees, the ones that make the least amount of mistakes because they're human, they're going to be gone, and then you're going to end up with all the ones that fucking ends up someone dying, like afraid to jump in, afraid not to jump in, and it's going to end up being even worse.
Yeah.
Like enjoy the John McCarthy's, the Herb Deans, the Jason Herzogs. I know they make mistakes, but they're fucking human. It's a live situation. It all happens really fast. You know, I like to bust Herb's balls because of the stuff that he did in some of my fights. But at the end of the day, Herb's a great ref, man.
Yep.
Fantastic referee. And that, I think that's where it needs to, there needs to be a line just for fighters to be like, hey, I'd rather have him as a referee than fucking someone that works on a small local circuit and just, I could end up dying out there because you're not, you know, you're afraid to make the decision. Oh, I was choked out. Like the one referee in San Antonio, right? The one that fucking let the triangle armbar go on till the person was choked out, and then he threw to the armbar and broke
Choked out,
arm.
and then hyperextended arm.
Yeah, hyperextended. It just baffled me that that thing went on. I'm surprised no one jumped in the cage and was like, hey, what the fuck? So,
I agree.
Dave, what else you got for us?
All right. Well, believe it or not,
Or not.
we still have a UFC card to cover for this coming up this weekend.
Believe
so
it or not.
I'll let you guys hop into this. For anyone that's just joined, I'm seeing this ticker going up for the people watching. We covered the Hamza Elias stuff at the start of the show, so rewind if you want to catch that. Otherwise, we'll hop into this fight card here.
Yeah, it
Did
was,
you throw a ticker up, Dave?
No.
You said a ticker.
Oh, no, I said the view ticker, like the people watching.
Okay. I thought you threw up a ticker. I was like, okay. All right, let's go ahead and talk about that main event there. John, you got Blanchfield versus
Macy Barber.
Macy Barber.
This is I'll tell you what, it's a good matchup. It's one of those you look at and, you know, Macy Barber is, you know, came onto the, you know, the scene as the future. And she was, you know, had all these grandiose ideas of being one of the youngest champions of all time and everything like that. And that's all great. You got to have goals and there's nothing wrong with them and stuff. But, you know, she's still young, 27 years of age now. But, you know, she is a person that's really gotten better now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when she was first fighting in the UFC and having some of those fights, you know, against Jillian Robertson and JJ Aldrich and them, I was like, you don't, that's the thought of championship fight right now. Don't even think about it. Just get better.
Yeah.
You know, and then she had the loss to Roxanne Modafferi, where I think she had the, you know, a knee injury also. And then she lost right away again, back to back to Alexa Grasso. And you look and you go, hey, this is what happens when you kind of get a little bit stepped ahead, you know, and you are going to be good. You just got to let time take its course. And you got, you know, it's like cooking food. You know, you can't turn up the heat and that's going to make it good. So she's really gotten to that point now where she is a good fighter and she's fun to watch. She's had some really good opponents, you know, where she's, you know, done well. So a lot of decisions in it, but I'm going to say that Erin Blanchfield on the ground is going to be a very difficult opponent for Macy Barber. On the feet, Macy Barber is going to do very well. And that's where she needs to keep this fight. As much as she can in the standing position, Macy Barber is going to be the better fighter, in my opinion. She's faster. She's more accurate. She's just, you know, technically better. And she showed that in her fights like with Amanda Hebus and, Andrea Lee. But Erin Blanchfield is someone that I don't think that Macy Barber can be on the ground with for an overly long period of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, the odds would say that you probably have it a little backwards. They're saying Erin Blanchfield at minus 245. Macy Barber is at plus 202. I mean, I'm looking at it like Macy Barber's got to stay on her bike. She can't come straight forward. She's got to use her lateral movement. Can't afford to be pressed against the fence.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, she's got to use her speed, all of those things. But, I mean, they've got Blanchfield at a minus 245. You're saying you're taking Erin Blanchfield?
Yes.
Okay. I must have misunderstood you. It sounded like you were leaning towards Barber.
No, what I'm saying is, look, I like Macy Barber, and I think she's gotten way better. And her, you know, she's, you know, come through this whole process Where now, she does have a decent ground game, but it's not good enough to stay with Erin Blanchfield.
Yeah.
Erin Blanchfield's going to dominate her on the ground, I think. And the pressure that Erin Blanchfield creates is going to wear her out if she ends up on the ground for an extended period of time. But in the stand-up, if she can keep it, like you're saying, keep it off of the fence, keep it in the middle of the cage, move her feet, and use range and speed, she's got a chance of winning the fight.
Yeah, I would agree. Macy Barber to me is somebody who's really kind of come into her own her last 3 or 4 fights. The maturity level, the understanding, the fight IQ in which she's fighting a lot smarter and not just reckless out there. She understands like, hey, I'm a couple, maybe even just one fight away from a title shot.
Yeah.
So she's right there. She's knocking on the door and just I'm not sure. We're going to find out if she rises to the moment or if she folds under it. These are those moments where fighters, they wonder if, am I really ready to be here? Like you said, the talking conversation when she was young, me, the youngest champion, this and that. Well, that's past now. You're now mature. You now know what you have to do. You know how much work goes into this. You know how you need to make a priority. And it looks like she's done that. She is a fantastic fighter. Love watching her fight. She's doing a great job. Now, Erin Blanchfield, very good, but not good on the feet.
No.
Not good on the feet. On the ground, she's fantastic. She's dominant. She's good. But if she doesn't get this fight to the ground, she could be in some trouble. And I wouldn't even say if she gets the fight to the ground, if she has to be on top. If Erin Blanchfield's on the bottom, I could see Macy Barber putting some big shots on her and then backing out of the guard or being able to do some damage and then kind of withering her away a little bit.
Yeah, Macy was able to do that, if you remember, with Miranda Maverick.
Yes.
Who Miranda's got a good ground game, and she was able to stay, on top of Miranda and do damage. So you're absolutely right. But, it is that thing that is the separator. You look at Erin Blanchfield on top in this fight, and you're just looking at, man, she's gonna burn a ton of energy trying to keep herself safe, and it's just gonna start going downhill from there. And the other part, if you're gonna look at it, is I would say that overall, they have a very close as far as the amount of fights, but the better, especially at the end here, the better competition has been from Erin Blanchfield has faced. She fought like Rose. Yep. She fought Farrow. She fought, trying to think of who else, but Jessica Andrade, I remember fighting. Mm-hmm. So that's good matchup.
Yeah, to me, it's going to be a good fight. I'm looking forward to seeing the fight. One's got to implement a game plan of sticking and moving and trying to make it a boring fight, not to take really a whole lot of chances. Unless she clips her coming in, and then she can try to finish her up. And Erin Blanchfield's got to put the pressure on. If she doesn't get the takedown early in the fight, will she be able to get it later on in the fight when they get sweaty? Or will she be able to get it later on after she's tried and hasn't had success? Yeah. Also, too, it's a little bit – when you've been training specifically for someone is not as good as you on the feet, but needs to rely on their jiu-jitsu, you understand the importance of using your lateral movement. You're spent the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks, however long your camp is, on focusing on sticking and moving, not sitting down on your punches, just touch, and move, touch, and move. And so we're going to see if she can implement that early in the fight. Because as the fight goes on and she gets a little bit sweatier, it'll be harder, I think, for Erin to get the takedowns. As long as Macy Barber's in shape.
Could be true.
So this could be one of those fights where if, like I said, the maturity of Macy Barber, if she fights a smart fight, she can end up, the dog could end up winning. So over at betustv.com, check them out for some of the best betting odds on the business. Check it out. If you guys are looking to take a dog, not Erin Blanchfield, but Macy Barber would be a dog to take. Let's go ahead and go to the next fight.
We got Mateus Gamrot taking on Ludwig Klein. This is a great fight. This is one that's interesting to me. Ludwig Klein has really shown, being good everywhere, tough, strong. He's got very good stand-up, but he's got his hands full with Mateus Gamrot. Now, did you understand what I said right there?
I did. Okay. I thought maybe you were just stuttering in the first one. John, great fight. Fantastic fight. One's got to keep it on the feet. This is very similar to the main event.
Very, very similar.
Very similar. The thing
Gamrot's better in the stand-up than Blanchfield.
Yes, John. Yes, I did. I'm glad you pointed that out.
I had to
it
point it
wasn't-
out, man. I don't want
Captain
to
Obvious
think
over
of it.
here. Shit. No, yeah, he is. He is. He's not afraid to throw. He's down to get. He's down to get down, as I like to say. But Klein is not somebody you want to stand too much with. The other thing, though, too, is that what Klein does very well that kind of interests me is when I watched him with the Bahamondes fight, he covered the distance, threw the elbow instead of throwing the punch. So he came in with the jab, and as you stepped in, he threw the elbow nice and clean off of that.
Yeah.
Beautifully done. Fights really well. He doesn't try to hit the little short right hook and left hooks. He throws good elbows in those areas, and that's going to work against a Gamrot as they get into the clinch if he's able to stuff any takedowns. Because look, Klein can also wrestle. He's been known to wrestle, try to get to the fight. He likes to be in the top position. I wouldn't recommend wasting energy trying to get takedowns, but I also wouldn't shy away from threatening a takedown or two. Just to kind of keep Gamrot, on his toes. Like, hey, I can go ahead and hit a double, and if I don't get it, I come back up to the body lock and try to make space and get away. But if you're having success on the feet, the power shots, the elbows, the inside, outside, leg kicks, all of those things, he's very fast, Klein is. Good stand-up, great work. Like I said, he can mix it up with the takedowns. But I'm gonna lean a little bit towards Gamrot based on his wrestling and the ability to control top position. They haven't done Gamrot really any favors. They're not big fans of him, I guess, from what I can gather. So he's just not getting any love. Like he was having some success, and then after the Sarukian fight, then he came up short on a fight. But look, they've got Gamrot at a -150 at betustv.com, and they've got Klein at a +126. I mean, it's pretty close to, I don't want to say close to even money, but it's not that far apart. So if you're going to put some money down, Klein could win this fight by knockout. He could catch him coming in. He could catch him out of the clinch.
Dan Hooker caught him.
Yeah.
Dan Hooker, he connected. He had him hurt. So look, it is absolutely possible for, Gamrot to get hurt in the stand-up, but his wrestling is just relentless. Mm-hmm. He goes after it. He doesn't stop. It's very much like, Habib. Oh, you know what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it, and let's see you stop me.
Those of you guys all listening, you guys can hear Dave's ice and.
Sorry. Can you?
I
don't know. You could hear it. I can't hear it come through my headphones.
No, it was the ice along with like the.
Oh, sorry.
It was great. I was just laughing. I was like, yeah. So they've got Gamrot at a -150. The over at 2.5 is -300. Like, I don't think this fight goes the distance unless Gamrot gets these takedowns early and often. Otherwise, I think Gamrot gets knocked out. So you can take the under at +246, under 2.5 at +246 if you want to take a chance on Klein. That's another way Klein can win this fight. Do you think it's going to go the distance?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do? Okay.
I do.
Okay. That's -300. That's too rich for my blood. -300. 2.5.
Don't touch it.
Don't touch it, huh? Don't touch it. I mean, the Klein could win this fight by knockout. He could win it. He's got power. He's fat. I think he's the faster fighter. But can he stuff the takedowns? He's got enough wrestling to get takedowns. I don't know if he's got enough wrestling to stop Gamrot's takedowns.
Yeah.
All right, let's go next one. Goff versus Brahmat. How do you say his last name?
Brahimaj.
Jeez.
Yeah. Ramiz Brahimaj. This is one of those ones. Billy Goff I like Billy Goff. He's fun to watch. He's tough. He comes after people. When you look and you go, what's the difference in these guys? It's really Billy Goff is willing to bite down on the mouthpiece and just go after someone, even when you go, that's probably not a great idea at the time, but he'll do it. And it's impressive. And Ramiz is very tough. And, he's got a style to him that you're looking at. It's all submission based. He wants to fight to the ground and he wants to put you in a submission. And that's great. He's got a ton of first round submissions.
Yeah. So I think 7 or 8.
Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy how many, but that's his style. And so what you're facing, and Billy Goff is going to be the guy trying to stop the takedown and land the big shot. We'll see if he can do it.
Yeah, Brahimaj is the no-gi world champion, I think, for IBJJF, and then he's also, trains out of Fortis MMA. Like, he's got a good group of wrestlers he can train with. He's obviously got really good skill in terms of the jiu-jitsu and the grappling with all the submission finishes. He was out for a while, though. I think he had like a tumor or something in his head. So he was out for a bit and came back and he's had success, and I think if this fight does hit the ground, look for Golf to end up being submitted.
Yeah.
If Golf can keep this thing on the feet, he will bite down on his mouthpiece and he will go after it.
Yep.
He kind of reminds me of a little bit of the Nate Diaz when he gets in close when the fighters are tired because he puts pressure and he's picking and choosing.
He'll just keep on throwing.
Yeah. And it's like at a slow pace, but they're getting through because he's picking and choosing where he lands. Uppercut, left hook, over the top right hand, and then back to the uppercut. And then he's working around the guard as the person's buckled over against the fence, trying to survive. So Golf is fun to watch fight. Like he said, we need more fighters like this in the UFC now. Like guys that we just know that, hey, they're not going to always win, but they're going to be exciting as hell. And you want to see those kind of fighters have success because that'll start to bring back the fan base to the UFC and to the sport itself. Because right now I feel like the fan base for the sport has really kind of fallen off a little bit. And no, that's no jab at the UFC. That's just a jab at the sport overall. I think right now the sport is not in a great position. And I think fighters like Goff, fighters like Klein, fighters, these fighters that are coming up, we talked about Chimaev and Topuria. Those fighters right now and Paddy Pimblett, those fighters are making huge names for themselves, but also kind of carrying the sport right now on their back. And good for them. And I'm hoping we can hopefully see them have some success. Cause I think right now we need another star, maybe even 2 or 3 to kind of dig us out of a hole right now.
Yeah. All right. We got Dustin Jacoby taking on Bruno Lopez. Mm-hmm. This is one of those you know exactly what Justin's going to do. He's going to try to utilize his stand up. He's got his ground game's come a long ways, but he's always been a kickboxer and everything. Good athlete. Bruno Lopez, pretty good both. He's got a good submission game. His stand-up is actually it's effective. So sometimes he'll kind of go away from it to a point, but when he wants to be in the stand-up and throw, he just throws too many looping shots. That's what can catch him with Dustin. I mean, Dustin can sit there and going for somebody
Jacoby,
else.
Dustin and Jacoby kind of.
I can't get it all together.
Yeah,
but the Hanyak, I'll just go with that. The Hanyak is he's fun to watch. He comes to fight, and so does Lopez. So it's a good scrap.
It should be good. But I think obviously the higher level competition has been Dustin Jacoby. He's fought Khalil Roundtree. He's fought a lot of top level fighters. His fight with Khalil Roundtree was a split decision that he lost. He's had some good fights where he's fought some really high level competition guys, and he's got some good wins. Yep. And so I think the higher level competition is going to get him through. I think he should end up getting this win. Lopez is tough, but I don't think he's on Jacoby's level as long as Jacoby fights with a good high fight IQ. As long as he doesn't go out there and just be stupid, he should walk away with this fight. John, are there any other fights on here that you want to talk about? Because we got some fight announcements that I want to run through as well on this show for all you guys that are listening to us. Also, Alejandro Gutierrez, we got another super chat from
let's say that, Josh. Let's get through the fights and then
we're done with the fights. We're moving on to the
fights.
Okay. All right. So let's go through these 3 fights. We'll wrap. I've got a couple of questions from fans, and then we'll wrap up after that. So first fight announcement we got here is Roman Dolidze versus Anthony Hernandez at 85. That's on August 9th, UFC in Vegas. Probably what do you call it? Apex.
Yeah, it's an Apex headliner.
Yeah.
I actually think it's a great fight. I think you've got Dolidze's got a great ground game. His stand-up is a little bit awkward, but he's got power. You got, Anthony Hernandez is a zombie. He's actually got a pretty fluid stand-up. It's a little awkward, but it's fluid in the way he does it, and his ground game is fantastic. I look at this. This is a great, for the 185 division. This is where you're starting to separate things. I think this is a great idea to put these two guys together.
Yeah, you've got Anthony Hernandez is number 9. Dolidze is number 8 right now in the rankings. Yeah. It's a pretty even matchup, I believe. I think obviously that Dolidze's probably got a little bit better wrestling than Hernandez, but Hernandez got the better grappling.
Little physically stronger.
Yeah, physically stronger, and then more power probably goes to Dolidze. But Anthony Hernandez is someone that will take a shot and then deliver 2 or 3 body shots, let the hands go. That Nate Diaz type flurry against the fence kind of thing. I'm going to lean towards Anthony Hernandez. Right now, he's on a run. He's feeling good about himself. Like the confidence at all-time high. I think Dolidze is making his run back. But for me, Anthony Hernandez right now, he's 1 or 2 fights away from putting himself into that conversation. I'm like, is there something there? Is there a title shot is it lurking there, beyond the horizon? Like, Anthony Hernandez is just fun. He's somebody that, like, I don't know anybody that looks at him and goes, man, this guy, I just want to tune in to watch him fight. That's it. I just want, it's no different. I don't care if you win or lose. You're just fun to watch fight. I want to see you fight. And so
he's beaten Brendan Allen twice.
Yeah, John, he's got that. He's got the Nick and Nate Diaz thing about him. I don't know what it is. Something like I can't, if he's on, I got to watch him fight. I got to watch you fight, man. Like, you're that guy. So, and I love it. I love it about him. And Delizze, I think, is going to have his hands full. The longer this fight goes, because we've seen Delizze get tired. Yeah. And we've seen Anthony Hernandez get tired, but not to the fatigue and the
Anthony Hernandez got big lungs.
Yeah, he will push. Man, it's that Mexican, man. So, I think it's going to make for a fun fight. This is Anthony. For me, I feel like it's Anthony Hernandez's fight to lose.
Yeah, I agree.
He's got to fight smart, but I think he can get it done. He just can't. He can't take a big shot early in the fight. He's got to
don't run headlong into the bull.
Nope. Next one. What else you got for us, Dave?
All right, next fight we got here is Cody Garbrandt versus how do you say his first name? Barcelos.
Ronnie.
Honey.
No, it's Ronnie.
Whatever.
This one.
Tomato, buddy. Tomato.
This one takes place in June 14th in Atlanta, UFC Fight Night.
What do you think about this?
135.
I go to it now. I'll tell you what. This is Barcelos is just a tough individual. He's got good stand up. He's got great wrestling. Mm-hmm. Cody's like, I don't know what to say. I love the guy, but he's fast. He's got fast hands. He's got power. But it seems that, something has happened since that time when he fought TJ, got knocked out and then got knocked out again. He's never been the same fighter. He's never been able to take the same shot. And so he's got to be, smart in the way he goes about fighting Barcelos. I think Barcelos will have a hard time taking Cody down because Cody's got good defensive wrestling and he's fast. Not that Barcelos is not fast, but the real, it's the same as, when Umar fought Barcelos, you looked and you saw Barcelos start to take big, lunging, looping shots when he tried to take Umar down and it just didn't happen. And then he tried it again. It didn't happen. And also these looping shots, he leaves himself open. Well, that's what Cody should be looking for, on his defense. If he can stop Barcelos in those takedowns, look for the looping shots to come and counter him and put him out.
I mean, right now we're at a place with Cody that no one knows what you're going to get every time he steps into the cage. You don't know if you're going to get someone who's on point and can just land the clean shot, or somebody who's going to fight careless, or someone who's not really fighting. Sometimes, like, he comes in and just doesn't want to perform. And so I've always enjoyed watching him fight. Man, he's got such fast hands, and we know he has power. He can have a high fight IQ when he wants to. He just not to.
Josh.
Yeah.
One of my favorite fights I ever refereed was him and Dominic Cruz. Just watching him, because Dominic was trying to get him to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't fall for him. And I was just like, I was amazed because he was a young fighter. He's like 10-0. And I was like, dude, way to go, man. You are totally in control here as far as what you're doing. And I mean, everything he's doing break dances in the middle of the fight, and it was just, he was in total control. So he's got the ability.
Nobody had ever frustrated Dominic Cruz like he did that night.
No, but that was the first one where I actually looked and said, he's faster than Dominic.
Oh yeah.
And being faster, that was where you saw, because Dominic was always faster than everyone. The only one he wasn't faster than, I would have said, that he had fought was Demetrius. Demetrius, I thought, was faster than him, but he was just too big for Demetrius. But I mean, like you said, you just don't know what Cody's going to show up.
Yeah. Hopefully the one that lets it go, man.
Oh yeah.
Pulls the trigger, fights smart defensively, and lets the hands go.
Yep.
Last fight here.
Love this fight. First off, I'm a huge Tim Elliott fan. I think Tim Elliott is fun to watch. He fights his ass off. He does crazy things. You know, he's fun. And Kai Asakura is dangerous, but he can be caught.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he if he makes a mistake against Tim Elliott, you know, he can definitely be caught. Now he could hurt Tim in the stand-up because he got fast hands and he hits pretty damn hard for that weight class. You know, flyweight he can swat. But I think this is a fun fight, and if Tim Elliott gets a hold of Asakura, you're gonna have some fun watching that fight.
Yeah, Asakura's ability to land the knee up the middle, his ability to land, boxing and striking and kicks, he's fantastic. So Tim, he's going to have to time his takedowns. He's going to have to time and working his way into the grappling, because if he doesn't time it properly, he can get knocked out. But like you said, look, Tim Elliott's one of those guys. He's fought everybody. And he doesn't care. He fights his ass off every single time. Even when he's taking a beating, he's still dangerous.
Yep.
As he's rolling underneath, he's trying to get the submissions. He's always attacking. I mean, he'll put you in jeopardy almost the whole time. So Asakura can't afford to make any mistakes. If he does, he's gonna be in a lot of trouble. So this is a very fun fight, because we're gonna see what we're gonna get from Asakura, what we didn't get in the first fight. Are we gonna see someone that fights freely? Does he just go ahead and get it, let it all out? Is he able to do that against someone like a Tim Elliott?
Yep, I agree.
Good fight though. Yep. What else?
All right, with that, we'll get into these last couple of questions here, and then we'll wrap up the show. So we got Giovanni Perez, member, Let's Go Blanchfield, Alejandro Gutierrez. Thoughts if they did Blanchfield versus McKenzie? Focus, Josh. Stop thinking about Dern's guard. Focus on the question, LOL.
Dern's guard. Oh, I don't know a man that could not focus on Dern's guard. So... okay, so what was the question?
What if they did Blanchfield
and
versus
there it
McKenzie?
is.
Yeah. What if they did Blanchfield versus McKenzie?
I think McKenzie would dog Walker.
In what?
If they fought.
Grappling or a fight?
No, it would end up being a grappling fight. Aaron Blanchfield, she's not going to try to stand with Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern, the fight's going to end up going to the ground. I think McKenzie's better than her in both spots, on the feet and on the ground.
Okay.
Now, I say dog walk, okay, but I'm going to lean a lot more towards.
But they're in different weight classes.
But she dog walks her. I think if you get Mackenzie Dern at a bigger weight, she just got to be in shape. My personal opinion is that she is one of those that she's used to dealing with heavier girls. Jiu-jitsu wise, if she knew, look, the other thing though, Sean, if she knew she was fighting just Aaron Blanchfield, I think she would step away from working the striking and be like, look, all I got to worry about is the grappling. Well, I've got black belts on black belts of world-class females that I'll just jump in with and just train nothing for 10 weeks and get back on stride of just jiu-jitsu. And she'll pick it back up at a whole other level than Aaron Blanchfield. It just snap it right back into place. I'm going to lean towards Mackenzie Dern.
There are levels to it. There's no doubt about it. But I look and I go, first off, Mackenzie used to fight 120, flyweight, 125. She's down in the straw weight at 115. So they're in different weight classes. But it would be an interesting fight. And it's one of those, I always look and say, okay, where's the weakness? Where's the strength? And obviously, we've always talked about Mackenzie and that her wrestling is one of her weaknesses. But her jiu-jitsu is fantastic, but her stand-up is not bad. It's bad in the fact that she makes basic mistakes. Her chin comes up and those things, but she'll throw and she will definitely take a shot. Mm-hmm. And I give her credit with that. So it would be an interesting match. I would love to actually see it.
Giovanni Perez, you don't know what you're talking about, man. He said Blanchfield wins. Calm down, buddy. Calm down.
Alejandro super chats. So, and this was in reference to John talking about Cody versus Dom. He says Josh would say Cody dog walked Cruz. So just a funny comment. Yes, last question here from OnlyFans. It's a little bit lengthy. I'm gonna get it in because he did go over to OnlyFans and sign up to get this question in. So I am gonna just get this one in for him. Jackson Styles, question for Josh: Hamzat versus Khabib, resume takedown defense wise. What resume takedown defense wise? Whitaker, Usman, Ikram, Burns, Khabib's question mark. Conor, Dustin, Gaethje, Iaquinta. Khabib only beats strikers. Make it known, I said Khabib has only faced strikers and Chimaev has tested himself versus full game guys and former champs.
I mean, John, would you say, I'm going to let John answer this because I know all of you guys are going to say that I'm biased. Would you say that Chimaev has fought the better competition than Khabib?
No.
There you go. That answers the question. Like, Khabib's fought the better. Now, that may not last long. Chimaev
it can absolutely change.
Yeah.
And possibly will if he becomes the champion, because he's going to end up having to fight all the best people he can. But like, people are forgetting some, Khabib fought Dustin Poirier. If you don't think that Dustin Poirier is one of the best damn MMA fighters in the lightweight division that you've seen, you're not being too smart. That dude is a stud. Okay. You can take a look at, Conor McGregor, and he fought him when Conor was right at being that guy, put him away. Justin Gaethje, put him away. There is that point where you look and you go, no, he has not, Chimaev has not reached the point of having the competition that Khabib has faced. But like you said, everything can change, and it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, no, everything can change. But I want to go through this too. You said, Khabib fought nothing but strikers. But take a look at this. Take a look at this weight class. Okay, in the 185-pound division, you go Nasruddin Imavov. Is basically a striker. He's got some wrestling,
good defensive wrestling.
Yeah, good defensive. He's not a jiu-jitsu guy. He's got good, decent submissions, but he's not. Sean Strickland, striking,
striker,
good defensive wrestling, good at getting back up to his feet.
Yes.
Israel Adesanya, striker.
Really?
Robert Whittaker, striker. Kai Bahalo, striker. A little bit more well-rounded. A little bit, from what I've been told, his grappling is phenomenal. Jared Cannonier. Striker. I would say, Roman Dolidze, striker.
Not really. He's more of he's a ground guy.
Great striking, John, but he doesn't.
But he's a ground guy
either. He can.
He's a ground guy.
Okay, so let's say Dolidze. You got Anthony Hernandez, good on the feet, great grappler.
Yeah,
fantastic grappler. Marvin Vettori, striker. Brendan Allen can do it all.
Yeah, really good. He's got a really good ground game, but he's a striker also.
Paulo Costa.
Striker.
Then you got RDR, who's all grappling.
All grappling.
And I won't even get into like Kopylov and Abus Magomedov, right? Abus Magomedov, striker. So basically all of those guys, DDP, striker. So if Chimaev fights any of those guys, or they're all strikers. He's fought Kevin Holland, striker. He's fought Zhang Li. He's striker. He's fought strikers. He's beat Rob Whittaker, striker. The one guy he didn't fight that wasn't a striker was Gilbert Burns. But Gilbert Burns, towards the end of his career, became a striker.
He's been a striker.
So I don't know. I'm going to lean towards. Obviously, I'm going to lean towards Khabib because he's got the longer resume of fighting the better guys. Just the Conor fight alone was better than any of the guys that Chimaev has fought so far.
Yeah.
So
if someone's people can look and say, well, you got Kamaru Usman in there. And look, absolutely, but that was a last-minute fight at a different weight class for Usman. There's so many different things that are involved in that one. So I look and it's like, overall, right now, you got to say Khabib had the better talent again, but it can change because there's one guy that's fighting and the one guy that's not.
Yeah. Hey guys, I want to thank you guys so much for continuing to support our channel. Go to WayneandMerch.com, pick up some of our shirts and our apparel as soon as you guys can. And also too, Drink Element. Love this product. And actually, John, I know that Miss McCarthy sent me over a text. She said, would you please have them send me some more lemonade salt? I'm actually doing a lemonade with all the kids in the neighborhood. We're going to set this up here in the next couple of weeks. We're going to do a lemonade, Drink Element, lemonade salt, lemonade stand, where we basically do packages for people. And we're going to work on that. So that's going to be something with the kids so they can have some fun with it, man. So we're going to set up this little lemonade stand out there. Kids are going to be out there slinging element. Yep. And have some fun with it, man. They also got this one here that's really good. I like this one, actually, the mango chili.
You like that one?
I do. I like a little bit of that feeling of
the bite in the back of the throat.
Yeah. It's kind of nice. A little spice. It's like having a little cayenne pepper, kind of like when you have a mango. It's nice. Love that. A little cayenne pepper on there, or a little tahini or something on there. It's awesome. All right, guys. Well, hey, that's gonna do it for our show. Join us over at OnlyFans. We also had some people that signed up during this show, joining us over at OnlyFans. I want to thank you guys so much for continuing to support us and our partnership with OnlyFans. Like I said, check out Corey Sandhagen. He released that his nuts made him $2 million in 1 month. Go if you want to check out his nuts.
You want to go check out his nuts? Go.
No shaft. Just
But then someone will be sending you something else that's got something to do with nuts.
And then also go to betustv.com and check out all the best betting odds at betustv.com. Thank you guys so much for continuing to support us. This is the Weighing In Podcast, and we are out. We will
See ya.